Good morning, Pam. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
I just want to double check. Commissioner Haskin was not able to participate today, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. We'll start momentarily.
Okay.
Good morning and welcome back to our second day of our June meeting of the California Building Standards Commission. It is 9 a.m. and we are reconvening our June session. I'd like to reestablish a quorum. Ms. Maida, can you please call the roll?
Undersecretary Ignacio,
Present.
Commissioner Mickelton, Commissioner Sasaki,
Here.
Commissioner Patel,
Here.
Commissioner Stockwell,
Here.
Commissioner Rambin,
Here.
Commissioner Legray,
Here.
Commissioner Kloss-Buckner,
Here.
Commissioner Santillan,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Here.
Commissioner Mickelton. He's logged on, but I'm not hearing his audio.
He may just need a moment to get that squared up.
Okay.
Okay, well, Commissioner Mickelton is getting his audio and visual to come up. I would like to ask Mr. Day to reread the Zoom instructions for this meeting.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Day, Deputy Director of the California Building Standards Commission. This meeting is being held remotely, consistent with Senate Bill 189, which authorizes a state body to hold public meetings through teleconferencing and to make public meetings accessible telephonically or otherwise electronically. Today's meeting can be viewed on the CBSC YouTube channel linked on the meeting agenda. I would like to remind the YouTube viewers that there is a 45-second delay. Closed caption is available via Zoom's automated live transcription by clicking on the closed caption button. Closed caption will automatically appear if you are watching the meeting via YouTube. Closed captioning is also available for both meeting days through the stream text link provided on the agenda. The stream text service provides a larger closed captioning screen and can be customized by the user. The public may provide comments on each agenda item by calling in on the Zoom teleconference number provided on the meeting agenda, or by using the raised hand feature in Zoom. Instructions are provided on the CBSC webpage. If you have difficulty with the technology, please call CBSC's office at 916-263-0916. I will now read the public comment and Zoom instructions. If you wish to make a comment on a specific agenda item, please listen for the commission chair to ask for any comments from the public. The chair will first go through the Zoom participants that have raised their hands. Then the commission chair will take comments from the public on the Zoom phone line. At this time, please take yourself off of mute. We request that you announce your name and who you're representing before making your comment. Please mute yourself when done commenting. The chair will continue the call queue until there are no questions remaining. The commission will then proceed to the next agenda item. If possible, please call from a landline using the telephone handset only. This enhances the commission's ability to hear your comments clearly. Calling from a speakerphone or a cell phone reduces the quality of the audio and makes it much harder for your comments to be heard clearly. CBSC staff will summarize any written comments that were received by 5 p.m. Monday, June 19th. And just as a last reminder, I'll ask that everyone try to speak slowly so that the captioners and the interpreters can record your words. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Can I just ask that we readjust our screen so we can see the commissioners again? Thank you. Perfect, that's good. Thank you very much. So just again, to clarify our order that we will be taking up our items, our remaining items today. We're going to start with item number 24, which is by the division of the state architect, followed by item number 20. So we're going backwards today. So, then we'll take it item number 23 by HCD. And we will conclude our business for our June meeting with item number 22, which is also the Housing and Community Development Department. So with that, I would like us all to turn to item number 24, the proposed adoption of amendments to the 2022 California Building Code, Part 2, Title 24. Will a representative from the Division of the State Architect please introduce themselves and provide an overview of item number 24 for the commissioners, please?
Morning, Madam Chairperson and Commissioners. My name is Eric Dreber, Principal Architect of the Division of the State Architect. I'm joined here today with Ida Claire attending virtually and Michelle Davis, Supervising Architect for DSA. DSA headquarters is Access Compliant Unit is prepared to present to you today our proposal for the amendments to the regulations of the 2022 Building Code for the 2022 intervening code cycle. For these proposals, DSA's pre-cycle activities included meetings with DSA Access Code Collaborative, ACC. DSA's ACC is a representative stakeholder group which provides valuable insight from a broad range of perspectives, including code beneficiaries, design professionals, access specialists, advocates, facility owners, and code enforcement individuals. DSA met with the ACC on September 23rd, and again in a follow-up meeting spanning 2 days on November 4th and 7th. DSA also conducted a public access stakeholder forum on October 24th and multiple meetings with the Disability Rights California organization on September 30th, October 21st, December 9th, and on January 6th to review proposed building standards brought forward by that organization. DSA then presented to the Building Standards Commission's Access Code Advisory Committee on February 2nd and 3rd. Based on the recommendations received by the Access Code Advisory Committee, DSA made changes to the proposals and conducted a public hearing on March 23rd to receive public input on those proposed changes. The public hearing was conducted during the 45-day public comment period. The 45-day public comment hearing was the 45-day public comment period for these proposals took place from March 10th to April 24th, 2023. Following the 45-day public comment period, DSA considered all comments received during the public hearing, as well as the 45-day public comment received. DSA made further refinements to the proposals and conducted a 15-day public comment period beginning May 10th and concluding on May 25th, 2023, to receive comments on those refinements. The proposed building standards brought before you today for your approval are the result of this extensive public outreach effort and excellent participation by a broad range of stakeholders. The proposed amendments have varied origins, including DSA internal analysis of building standards needing additional clarity, proposals by Disability Rights of California organization, and proposals brought forth by code users and beneficiaries. These proposed amendments are necessary to coordinate with related California Plumbing Code amendments during this code cycle that address all gender restroom facilities. Also to clarify accessibility requirements for adaptable units in public housing facilities related to the Fair Housing Act, to correct administrative adoption, and to align the adoption timelines set forth in statute. DSA requests approval of the amended building standards proposed for the 2022 building code intervening code cycle. DSA is prepared to present the proposed amendments, and if it pleases the board, considering the extensive outreach and public participation leading to this proposal, DSA would request that we present the items represented on the CAM green for uncontested items as a single action, and would request to follow up with the items indicated on the yellow CAM containing contested items in a grouped fashion as indicated on the CAM. However, Madam Chairperson, we will proceed at your direction.
Does the committee, or does the commission members have a preference? Would you care to split up the items, or would you like to take them all at once and split them later if needed?
This is Commissioner Mickelson. I would prefer to just take them top to bottom.
Okay, if that's okay, hearing no other. Mr. Drever, then let's go ahead and present the green all the way through the yellow sheets as well.
Individually?
Just in summary, yes.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Mickelton's request was we just go top to bottom in sequential order, Eric, if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you for
Thank
that
you.
correction. So without further ado, I would ask that Michelle Davis present those items on the green CAM first. Point of clarification, you would like us to go in order first through the green CAM and then through the yellow? Or
No,
would you-
this was to go in order through all of your items, not separate them,
So one through.
not separate them into categories of green and so forth.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So we'll go through the item by item in numerical fashion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 1 is a change to CBC Chapter 2, Section 202, the definition of blended transition. DSA proposes to change the way the slope is expressed, removing the percentage term and instead adding a ratio. The other slopes in the code are all expressed as ratios, and so this change is to simply match the verbiage already used. Item number 2 has been withdrawn. Item number 3 was a change to CBC Chapter 4, Section 406.2.3 regarding accessible parking spaces. DSA proposes to add a reference to Chapter 11B and the term as applicable. The section already references Chapter 11A. So the reference is simply to be more complete. Item number 4 is an amendment to Code CBC Chapter 10, Section 1009.2. Accessible means of egress, continuity, and components. We propose to add exception 11, which states safe dispersal areas where they are allowed under section 1028.5. Item number 5 is an amendment also to Chapter 10, Section 1009.8.2, accessible means of egress. And this is another change to the referenced chapter. Chapter 11A is already in the code language, and we propose to add a reference to Chapter 11B, as well as the section number that is already existing in the code. This is for clarity. Item number 6 is proposed for Chapter 10, Section 1010.1.4. Again, another reference that already has Chapter 11A in the code language, and we propose to amend it to also include for Chapter 11B as applicable. Item number 7, still in Chapter 10, Section 1028.5, safe dispersal areas. We propose to add a exception number 6, which would allow an accessible area for a safe dispersal area to be provided for a minimum of 2% of the facility occupants. Item number 8 applies to CBC Chapter 11A, Section 1150A. DSA is proposing to rescind its adoption of this section, 1150A, and the subsections 1150A.1 and 1150A.2 in their entirety. This proposal is made because during the 2019 intervening cycle, this language was moved to Chapter 11B, and this is no longer needed as it's duplicative. Item number 9 is a proposed amendment to Chapter 11B, Section 11B 213, and proposes requirements for multi-user, all-gender toilet facilities. There are currently no requirements in the code for multi-user, all-gender toilet facilities. And the access provisions we are proposing are in line with the proposed plumbing code changes that will allow this type of configuration at toilet rooms.
Madam Chairperson, if I could pause there for a moment and ask a question.
Yes, go ahead. I didn't see who was asking the question.
This is.
Oh, Eric, yeah,
Sorry,
go
my
ahead.
apologies. I'll introduce myself again later each time.
It's just hard with all of the screens to figure out which one just moved. Thank you.
I wanted to make sure that we were understanding the direction that was requested. Would the board prefer a pause between each item for action, or just continue on through the entire proposals and take action at the end?
Continue through the entire proposal and then we'll take action at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 10 is a proposed change to chapter 11B, section 11B -216.5, electric vehicle charging facility signs. DSA proposes to include terminology for electric vehicle charging facilities in the section that already regulates parking facility signs. Item number 11 is a proposed change to chapter 11B, section 11B-233.3.1.2, residential dwelling units with adaptable features. This proposal serves to clarify what an elevator building must have for accessible and adaptable units. The term elevator building was not defined in the code. So these changes are needed for clarity. Item number 12 is a proposed change to chapter 11B, section 11B-249.1, adult changing facilities alterations. This proposal amends existing requirements for adult changing facilities to include facilities that undertake alterations after January 1, 2025. This requirement is needed to align with existing statute. Item number 13 is a change to CBC chapter 11B, section 11B-406.3.2. It changes figure 11B-406.3.2 to align with changes also made during the intervening code cycle in 2019, when the detectable warnings were pulled back from the face of the curb to allow for constructability issues. The figure has been changed to show the correct placement of the detectable warnings. Item number 14 is a proposed change to chapter 11B, section 11B-604.8, toilet compartments. This change amends the language for the doors for toilet compartments to include a requirement to have a privacy latch. Currently, this requirement is not in the code. Item number 15, chapter 11B, section 11B-605, urinal compartments, is related to the requirements for multi-user all-gender toilet facilities. DSA recognizes that all-gender toilet facilities will likely require each fixture to be within its own privacy compartment. And there are currently no regulations for accessible urinals within their own compartment. This section proposes to add accessibility provisions for when a urinal is provided in a compartment. Item number 16, CBC, Chapter 11B, Section 11B-809.10.6, showers. This proposal is to strike a reference to Section 11B-608.1 because the reference is conflicting with the requirements of this section. Item number 17 is proposed for Section 11B-216.8, toilet room signs, and again is related to the proposals for multi-user, all-gender toilet facilities. This adds requirements for both the door sign and symbol at the entrance to the facility and adds additional fixture signs at each compartment so users will know if they are entering a compartment with a toilet or a urinal. And finally, item number 18, also related to all gender multi-user toilet rooms, proposes to amend Code Section 11B-226.4 to prohibit baby changing stations within accessible urinal compartments. And that is a summary of all our proposals. Thank you.
Chairperson, I'd like to add that for item number 15, there was an addendum issued which strikes superfluous language.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for that overview of this very comprehensive proposal. At this time, I would like to open it up for commission discussion. I'll call on each commissioner individually, and I will start with Commissioner Ramirez.
Nothing at this moment, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Patel.
No, I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kloss-Bruckner, please.
No comments at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mickleton.
Yes, I do have some comments and questions. So first, I want to commend DSA, as I have before, on the clear format of presenting the code proposals. Your format that you have is unique, where you separate the current language from the suggested text and have the statement of reasons all packaged together. And I appreciate that format. It makes it easier for, I think, everybody to digest and understand. So I've got a few questions that are directly related to the proposed changes, and a few that are a bit of a background question. So if you'll give me forbearance here while I ask some of those, I'm asking in part because they came up through the public comment question process. First is on item 6, the floor elevation. This is not, you're not proposing a change to the existing 4-inch exception. But I'm wondering if there's been discussion on changing that and why that's still allowed, since the front door, obviously the entry door can't have that 4-inch exception, so architects are able to solve the associated waterproofing and so forth problems. But people with disabilities won't be able to and are not able to use decks and patios when there is a step there.
Certainly, if I can respond, what happens at exterior decks and patios is that they typically need waterproofing and are lower than the floor level of the unit so that water doesn't seep into the unit. The waterproofing at a hard surface, concrete, needs to be at least 4 inches below the floor of the unit to allow for sufficient waterproofing space and to keep the manufacturer warranty in effect. So what we allow for this exception is for an infill of a different flooring material, such as a wood overlay on a patio or balcony that would bring the level up. But since there is solid surface below, that allows the waterproofing to remain intact.
As a multifamily architect, what I see happening is actually that exception allows people to just lower, whether it's a exterior patio or a balcony, a raised balcony, and create that 4-inch step, thinking that that exception is sort of almost asking for that, as opposed to there being a requirement that the surface be at the same level as the unit itself. So we're winding up getting adaptable and accessible dwelling units that have a level entry at the front door where they deal with the waterproofing just fine, and then a step at the rear door. So anyway, I understand the initial rationale behind the 4-inch step controlling water and being in the code in the first place, but I think I'm wondering whether this has been addressed as a potential change in the future, because architects are able to avoid that 4-inch step.
Commissioner, I'll point out, this is a requirement of the FHA, which suggests that it's really only in the adaptable units that this would take place, not in the mobility units. We certainly can take this up in future cycles if needed.
Right, I would request that, especially because it does say adaptable or accessible. So we have wheelchair accessible units that architects are designing with, a raised wood deck that steps down 4 inches, which is not the intent, I believe. So anyway, thank you for that. So on item number 7, the safe dispersal area, I'm glad to see that that's being defined now in the code, but I'm wondering why the low number of 2% of the facility occupants was used when there's a lot of other features of buildings where 5% is used, like locker rooms, dining, seating, mobility dwelling units, and other criteria. How did that low 2% number come up?
Well, the 2% number is used for quite a few elements in the ADA, but we also, if you look at the language, it's 2% of the entire facility, not 2% of those users that we are expecting to use the safe dispersal area.
Right, I do understand that. It still strikes me as a low number, and I would ask that DSA, continue to look at that in subsequent code cycles.
Thank you.
In item number 9, in the toilet compartments and urinal compartments, this is, I think, just a typo potentially. But so there's 11B 213.3.1.2, which says toilet compartments with urinal compartments. And in the preceding sections, it's the term toilet compartments and urinal compartments is that section title. And then the next piece, which is the 1.1, says toilet compartments. But I think that the 1.2 is probably this implies a toilet compartment with a urinal compartment within it. And so it seems like that was probably supposed to be and urinal compartments, as it's written in the 3.1 section above, because it's referring to both of them. It's not a toilet compartment with a urinal compartment. Or it should be toilet facilities with toilet compartments and urinal compartments for the title of the 1.2. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. We actually struggled with the naming of this section to make it make sense. And we were informed that we should not have it identically titled to section 11B 213.3.1 above, which was our initial proposal. However, we are open to further changes for clarity.
I would further add that the titles are non-regulatory specifically, so we certainly are open to clarifying if needed.
So would you be potentially amenable to a friendly amendment when we vote on this that would say for the 1.2, I know it's more words, but it would be separate from the 3.1, and it would say toilet facilities with toilet compartments and urinal compartments.
We would be.
Okay, thank you. Moving to item 11. I just want to say I'm glad to see the clarification that a building may have more than one ground floor. And that's come up as a point of potential confusion in the past. So I'm glad to see that. On item 12, that was a statutory requirement, and was the $10,000 trigger threshold part of the statutory requirement? Was it established in the statute?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. Item 14, toilet compartment doors, toilet compartment doors and hardware shall have a privacy latch. That's good. But I'm wondering why a privacy latch and door pull is required only in accessible and ambulatory accessible stalls. Because in my work, I'm trying to do more inclusive solutions, and it's probably more likely that someone with arthritis or dexterity issues would be ambulatory versus using a mobility device, and so they would still need a door pull. And I wonder why everyone wouldn't just want a privacy latch, not just on the accessible stalls.
DSA only has the authority to regulate the accessible elements. We feel that anything outside of for the non-accessible stalls is outside the authority and scope of Chapter 11B.
Got it. Understood. And then there were public comments to this point as well on that same section to suggest that a reminder would be helpful for people that, about or a reference to the code sections about pinching and gripping requirements. And I mentioned this because I know that I still encounter new toilet compartments in buildings that don't meet the requirements of pinching and gripping. So I think that would be a helpful reminder.
Okay. We can look.
Item 15. I think it's great to have the guidance for the accessible urinal compartments. I'm glad to see this whole section in there, and I'm glad to see that. I'm guessing that the ICC A117.1 that was updated in 2017 with recommendations for more maneuvering space is part of what created the 66-inch dimension. But I'm curious why is 66 rather than the ICC, which I think of as the model code here. The ICC 67-inch isn't used. It's just an inch difference. I'm curious about that.
Okay. So the 60, so I guess I'll start with the ANSI A117. The updated ANSI A117 hasn't been yet adopted. It's still using previous versions, which is something we're certainly tracking along with the federal actions on those items. The 66-inch is rooted in the base requirement for clear space in compartments without toe clearance. And so if you look at the typical water closet compartment, its base requirement is 60, but that's really rooted in the assumption that most wheelchair toilet compartments do not have a privacy concern or it's as critical a privacy concern. The fact that in the plumbing code amendments that will be adopted or proposed to be adopted require floor to ceiling or full height partitions, it's known that the base requirement for a urinal compartment would most likely contain no toe space. And so the approach was to make the 66 inches the base requirement as opposed to 60, knowing that there would likely be no toe space, and thereby it would need to be increased by 6 inches. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Thank you for the clarification. Just two more items. The item 16 shower size. I know there were a number of comments on this, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to explain. At first, I thought it was that striking the reference to 11B 608.1 would sort of lose the floor space and other requirements, but those are in 11B 809, sort of following the shower size section. So I think all of those are still covered. And this, well, maybe you can just clarify that that's the case.
That is the case. By having the reference to section 11B 608.1, we had conflicting requirements that were difficult to enforce from a code perspective. So we're seeking to remove the conflicts.
Thank you. And then the last comment is on item 17, the signs at toilet and urinal compartments. Two-part question. First is, I'm wondering if there's been discussion about consolidating the terms unisex and all gender to avoid confusion in the future.
we followed the requirements for unisex toilet rooms. We would certainly be open to a shorter term that would be understandable and potentially more quickly read by somebody who is reading the tactile or braille characters. However, in an effort to align with what's existing, we kept the same language.
Okay, maybe that's something that can be looked at in the future for simplicity. I do think it's a potentially a lot of words on a sign, and it starts to become difficult when we're setting sizes of letters to be visible and so forth. So the second part of the question there, or suggestion, really is that urinal and toilet are the words that are required for identifying the type of fixture within the compartment, and making a pictogram disallowed. I'm curious about whether that was in fact the intent, or whether the intent was to have that, or how can I put it, to have the pictogram not be the only designator. And I wonder if that was the case, whether a friendly amendment could be made here to not completely disallow a pictogram, but to say that the pictogram is not in place of a of the two words, because for people who don't read English or don't read at all, for children, for people with intellectual disabilities and so forth, the pictogram is actually a very valuable way of identifying spaces.
Commissioner Mickelton, this too was a challenge. The ambulatory stall opens out, which if you follow through the requirements of pictogram, they also require descriptive text, raised and braille. And placing pictograms on an outswinging door is an unsafe situation. And so by disallowing pictograms, I guess, number one, there was no adoptable pictogram that's universally accepted for a urinal. And that also adds to our reasoning. But certainly the unsafe condition at an outswinging door was of significant concern.
I understand the outswinging door, but this seems like it would prohibit somebody from, to the side of the door, placing an image as well, or would it not?
It would prohibit that, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to ask that, I mean, obviously we can't change something like that today without going through the right process, but I would like to ask that you look at that in the future and clarify that what you're referring to is a pictogram on the door, because of the justify you just described. But I do think it's important to allow some creativity in providing a more inclusive set of signage, especially in larger facilities that have a lot of unique signage, and the ability to add something that might be useful to other people to the side of the door, I think would be quite beneficial. So maybe just clarifying this language in another round to say that on the door is the prohibited pictogram location.
Thank you.
And no other questions. Thank you. I appreciate your responses.
Commissioner Mickleton.
I declare his state architect.
The Office of the State Architect wanted to make another comment. Ms. Ida?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I did want to clarify a couple more items regarding the pictogram and the nomenclature that we discussed, just to support our package. So we felt that we either needed to provide a pictogram that was acceptable or to prohibit them. And the reason we went to prohibit, especially when there's identifications of all gender, many of them are considered offensive that are out there. And so we figured that was a protective measure for the all gender community to not have to face pictograms that perhaps are inappropriate. Additionally, many of the pictograms that are out there are also proprietary, and because they are not established in federal law, having DSA create a new one that isn't is actually a very tall task in trying to find something that isn't already copyrighted and able to be used. So those were a couple of the reasons why we had essentially stated no pictogram. And I just also wanted to add, in the terms of alignment of unisex and all gender, again, in our outreach, all gender was the term that was most preferred by the community who benefits from all gender facilities. Unisex is a federal requirement in a federal term that actually defines a single user restroom that is not defined by sex, whereas all gender restroom is a multi-user restroom considering use by all genders and not defined by the plumbing code's requirements that separate facilities by sex. So there is a little bit of a distinctive difference, and it also supports our outreach and sensitivity to terminology and pictograms that are out there that perhaps could be problematic or offensive to the users. Thank you.
Thank you for that additional information.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mickleton, did you have any additional comments?
That's all. Thanks for the clarifications, Ida.
Thank you. That was a fantastic discussion. Commissioner Sanpion?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Sasaki?
First, thanks for DSA for the outreach efforts and then going through these many items, quite a few items here. Secondly, a big thank you to Commissioner Mickleton, who obviously has gone through these items in great detail. He, as practicing architect, obviously has to work with these. So anyway, yeah, we're tremendously happy he is a commissioner. So and that's all I have.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Alegre?
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Stockwell?
No questions, thank you.
And Commissioner Randon?
I do have a few questions and comments, and again, want to thank DSA for their work on these updates and changes, and Commissioner Mickleton for his thorough review. He addressed a bunch of my questions already, but starting with item 6 on the exterior decks, I appreciate the reference in adding chapter 11B. I do think it'd be great if there could be a specific section reference, leaving it up to the designers and plan check officials to go through and kind of figure out the reasoning for what that exception could be is a little challenging. And I'm wondering if it could be 11B 809.7, because that does at least kind of address the exterior deck condition.
DSA, would you like to respond to that?
The current proposals are to try to capture all of 11B, and we did consider specific references, but ultimately landed on the proposed language as presented today.
we felt there were multiple locations that could potentially be referenced, and we didn't want to inadvertently leave one out.
Understood. I guess I would just ask that if there's a way to be more specific in future revisions, I think that would be helpful to designers rather than having to sort of search through the various sections of 11B to get there.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Also appreciate the update. This is item 7 in the safe dispersal areas, and just wanted to clarify a comment made earlier in exception 6. It says 2% of facility occupants served by the safe dispersal area, which I think may be in conflict with what you had said earlier about 2% of the facility occupants. I can read that 2 different ways. If, it might not be all the facility occupants that are going to the safe dispersal area. It could just be a portion served by specific exits. So just want to be clear on how we're calculating things, if it's the entire egress load for the entire facility or just those specific exit paths that are going to the safe dispersal area. So that's part 1 of the question. And then part 2, if you're counting the occupant load times 5 square feet per occupant, that's the total square footage for the safe dispersal area, or the total occupant load is the 2% and the 30 by 48 clear within that safe dispersal area that's been calculated, or is it in addition to? Is that clear?
Madam Chair, may we respond?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. It is intended to be 2% of the area or of the occupants that are served by that safe dispersal area or that accessible means of egress. And for Commissioner Mickelton's comment, we will look at this percentage for our future rulemaking cycle. And I'm hopeful that addresses your concerns, perhaps over the 2%. In response to the 5 square feet, in our we did outreach to the ICC and were early in our research for this, and we're informed that the 5 square feet already assumes the a percentage of the occupants would be either in wheelchairs or perhaps even in gurneys in an emergency situation. So the 5 square feet is a conservative number for the occupant. Certainly a normal standing person doesn't normally occupy 5 square feet. So it is part of the already required 5 square feet per person.
Okay, so you've got, let's say 500 occupants. You would calculate the safe dispersal area based on that 5% and then make sure you've got the 2% of those 10 occupants. So there's 10 30 by 48 spaces within that safe dispersal area that have an accessible path of travel, and the ground plane meets all the requirements for those accessible spaces.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see, handle that item 7. I think item 9, Commissioner Mickelton addressed that section and the nomenclature used for addressing it, 11B 213.3.1.2. I would suggest that maybe it's multi-user, all gender toilet facilities with urinal compartments. That was my thought on that one, but I think we discussed item 12 and that was a statutory requirement. If it hadn't been a statutory requirement, I guess I would have liked to have seen it folded into the other requirements for renovations and alterations to a building. I think that potentially a $10,000 threshold, as Commissioner Mickelton clarified, that was part of the statutory requirement, is a fairly nominal amount, and it doesn't state where in the building those changes could be made. So it could involve adding an entirely new project to the scope of work, say if you're doing re-roofing or something like that. And I think we talked about item 16 already. So I think those are all of my questions. Thank you again for your work and putting this package together.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will now take comments from members of the public on item number 24. At this time, I would like to remind the public who wish to speak on item 24 to put yourself in the queue now by using the raised hand feature in Zoom, or listen for us to ask for comments from folks on the phone. And at that time, you would unmute yourself. Please, when called upon, identify yourself and clearly state your name and who you represent. And again, just a reminder to speak slowly for our interpreters and our closed captioning folks. So with that, Ms. Tersley, do we have folks in the queue?
Yes. First up is Connie Arnold.
Ms. Arnold?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, are we going to, let me get a point of clarification. Are we going item by item individually, or are we going through the whole set?
We're taking comments on the entire set.
Okay. All right, well, this is Connie Arnold, disability rights advocate, 30+ years. And I've been involved with the discussions between DSA and California Disability Rights. And I would like to support the comments of Disability Rights California on all of the specific items that they've addressed. Item 1, which was definitions concerning blended transitions, support. Item 2, support definitions, elevator building, which item was withdrawn, I believe. Anyway, item 3, support, which is about occupancy and accessible parking spaces. Item 4, which is regarding egress, continuity and components, which is oppose. And when we get to that part, just like to say that before I continue, I know that we have a standing request by members of the disability community for meetings to start at 10 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. because it's a matter of providing accessibility and reasonable accommodation for members of the disability community to participate. And then going down further on item 5, we oppose that. It decreases accessibility by allowing wider countertops, and it creates a problem for reach ranges. Oh, let's see, I think I'm on the wrong item. I'm on, let me go back through. Item 1 through 3, we support. I'm on the division of the state architect. Item 4, we support. This is the division of the state architect about safer spaces for emergency exits. Item 5 and 6, DRC supports the technical clarification. Item 7, we support the safe dispersal area. Our concern in part of this was regarding some of the issues that have been brought up by some of the commissioners about percentages of allowing access for persons in wheelchairs and increasing the percentages to a higher level. Item 8, we support. It's just a technical deletion of duplicate provisions. Item 9, we support We want to ensure access to restrooms, including gender neutral restrooms. Item 10, we support. Provides greater accessibility. But it's kind of a neutral issue, I think, also because it depends. We are concerned about the typeface and the size of the signage. So, item 11, support. Is cleaning up language, and we think this is a good provision. And item 12, support. Item 13, support. I'm not going to go through each one. I'm just going to tell you what we're looking at. Item 14, support. It's regarding the latch or lock in restrooms, privacy latch. Item 15, support. Urinal compartments in gender restrooms because they provide the largest and most accessible bathroom space, stall space as required in California ever. Item 16, that is a definite strong oppose. It's too small of a shower transfer landing area in residential adaptable unit bathrooms to allow anybody to transfer to a shower seat in a shower stall setting by decreasing it to 30 inches from 36 inches. And this is the area that's adjacent to the transfer seat in a shower. And I have a power wheelchair at 30 inches is too narrow. There's a lot of building going on right now, and it concerns accessible housing. And a lot of individuals with disabilities are faced with going into the adaptable unit, not the accessible unit, but needing more accessible adaptable units as well. And so this is a real big concern, and we're in opposition to this item 16. Item 17, we support changes for accessible signage in all gender restrooms to increase access. Item 18, support. We support the change that baby changing tables should not be located in accessible urinal stalls in all gender restrooms or in really virtually any accessible restrooms. Having been in accessible restrooms in Sonoma County at Mary's Pizza, having hit my head numerous times because they have a baby changing unit in the stall. It's totally not accessible. And let's see. I guess that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold. And I just want to speak to one of your items that you raised. We generally do the in-person meetings at 10 a.m. and the virtual meetings have been at 9 a.m. However, if we did not receive a specific request for this meeting to move it to 10 a.m. However, if we do get those requests, that is something that we could accommodate. So I do apologize if this was a hardship at 9 a.m. And I do thank you for your participation today in this meeting.
Thank you. It's been a standing request by members of the disability community to start at 10. I realize it wasn't requested by DRC, but that was inadvertent, and I would ask in the future that we start at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, Ms. Trusley, next in line, please.
All right, next we have Timothy.
Timothy, can you state your full name, please, and your organization?
Hi, this is Tim. Can you hear me?
Can you get a little bit louder, please?
This is Tim. Can you hear me?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, I'll try to keep my voice up. I was hoping to go after DRC, who held extensive meetings with a lot of members of the community, predominated by wheelchair users, individuals who use wheelchairs, as well as other disabilities. And so just let me say that except for the one item that I'm going to be addressing, number 16, we support DRC's presentation. I just want you to know that when you hear them, I think they're going to be detailed. There's a lot of voices behind them. And I think that will save some repetition. I would say at the start, Commissioner Mickelton suggested we go one by one, and somehow in the presentation, we ended up with action on the whole package. That highly disfavors any opposition. I don't know how the commissioners are going to pick out the items that are highly opposed from the ones that are not. I think it ends up blending the whole package and making it too easy just to miss the problems. So in the future, it's too late now. There was no request for public comment on that decision, but I would suggest in the future that we do take it one by one, especially the items that have opposition. That's critical. I just want to address item 16. I think I have the number right. The landing outside of transfer showers. We all appreciate that this deals with adaptable units and that this is the landing. I want to make that clear because as we went through the whole series of meetings with DSA and the Code Collaborative, et cetera, which were extensive, we'll give you that. There was often, we never had a chance for rebuttal. Rebuttal's always handled by the state architect, and then the state architect would come in, and we felt she was not accurate in representing what the opposition said. And she said, oh, everyone thinks this is about the size of the transfer shower, not the landing. It's just about the landing. We all get that it's the landing. There's something, since we don't have screen share, there's something I can't share with you, which is a video of an individual in a wheelchair using a transfer shower. That individual, it's an animation, is using a smaller manual chair. That's an important point. But even there, it shows that individual approach the transfer shower using that landing. And I want to describe the things that that person does to use the shower so that you can appreciate why 36 is important and 30 inches is deficient. The individual will first approach the shower and will approach the shower and with facing the face of the shower. So its wheels are towards the back wall and the person in the chair is facing into the shower. They're in that animation, they're using that full 36 inches to access and reach into the shower and grab the controls. Then the person moves. And this is why the 36 inches is important too. They need to get from their chair, transfer onto the bench. To do that, they angle their chair at approximately a 45 to get onto the seat. And that position is important because 36 inches allows that 45, but 30 inches requires a 90. So with that 45, the individual can slide off their seat, use the grab bars, and get onto the bench. At a 90, you're now going over the top of your bar or straining yourself on the bars, etc. So the whole point is that 30 inches is not usable. DSA did hold a lot of meetings. They were absolutely unbending and backing off of this. They told us we have to keep adaptable units separate, but never told us why. This was proposed as that we would have transfer showers and adaptable units that fully complied with 608.1 in terms of size. Why is that important? Why are transfer showers different than the other showers? The other showers, roll-ins, alternate roll-ins, they have a longer span in front of them. 30 by 60 is, or 30 by 48 is plenty to get into them. Whereas a transfer, you got to nail it dead right. And that's why when we bargained this with DSA and it was presented, we wanted it to fully comply with 608.1. Earlier, Mr. Mickelton asked DSA whether all other requirements for transfer showers are being covered here. And of course, we're talking about the things that need to be planned ahead for, to be adapted to in case someone wants to convert the unit. But everyone gets that. Reinforcement for the walls are described for grab bars rather than the grab bar requirements themselves. We're planning ahead to put in grab bars. Transfer showers took a long time to get in our code. They were heavily resisted. In 2010, which is our year for judging whether anything could be added to the code that is less than our requirements, we didn't have transfer showers. They weren't in the code for housing. They weren't in the code for public accommodations. We later added them and they were fought hard, but they have to be nailed. They have to be exact. So for instance, we do not have in the code any provisions as to where the control wall will be in these adaptable units. And so what they're doing here by taking out the reference to 608.1 is making these transfer showers the Wild West. You put those controls anywhere. Put it on the bench wall, put it on the back wall away from the shower opening. If you take out that reference to 608.1, you're going to lose everything. Here's another thing. This is the biggest thing. Floor space. They're saying 30 by 48, and they're referencing, this is hard to explain, but the length of the shower has to be flush with the control wall in the transfer shower. That puts 12 inches of space behind the shower, away from the control wall, where you can maneuver your chair. The clear floor space description that they have here at, where did it go? Let me give it to you. It doesn't specify that because it reverses length and width. It completely reverses them. 30 inches is the width, 48 is the length. But if you read their description of the landing, those two measurements are reversed. So now you have people, if you follow their directive, that 30 inch is flush. The 30-inch side of the rectangle is flush with the face of the shower, and the 48 inches goes away from you. Now you're trying to transfer directly onto the bench over your knees. I mean, there's no way to position it that 45 and slide on. So we have to keep the reference to 608.1. Again, there were a lot of meetings, but what was missing in DSA's process here is they never consulted the community before they put this on the books. Our chance to comment and put it into the rulemaking process. Our chance to comment only comes afterwards, and we're commenting, opposing DSA the whole way down the road. So I think they need to fix the language. They have to send this back. This is unusable space, and I hope the other commenters who use wheelchairs tell you this. This will end up with an unusable shower, and they needs to be sent back. DSA needs to start with the community, not talk to the community afterwards. One last comment on the process, and we appreciate why the state architect gets the position of rebuttal in these proceedings, but so often we feel frustrated after giving you all these comments. The state architect comes in, mischaracterizes what we said. Sometimes we're treated like we don't understand the code. And I think in future rulemaking, it would be really nice if just one group representative from the community was given a chance at a surrebuttal, a chance to respond to the state architect. So that our comments, the meaning of them aren't drowned out. I appreciate you folks listening to me today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Temish, thank you so much for your comments and your contributions to this process. I do want to just point out, or just a point of clarification, that the presentation was asked to have all of the content of the DSA on this item presented at once, but the commission does reserve the right to split out the items into as many motions as they care to do. So the conversation was asked to have all as a single package because there are a lot of interrelated items. And so it was clear for the purpose of presentation. And when we turn it back to the commission, the commissioners can choose based on all of the testimony, including the public comment. They will then determine what motions they would like to make and how many of those. So again, I thank you for your participation today and your contributions throughout this process. Ms. Trusley, do we have any other public comments, please?
Yes. So we have next is Bob Raymer.
Mr. Raymer?
Thank you. This is Bob Raymer representing the Building Owners and Managers Association, the California Business Properties Association, and CBIA. And we support the DSA package. We definitely appreciated being part of the Access Code Collaborative proceedings, along with the public participation proceedings, and through the Code Advisory Committee. So we're supporting this. And in terms of scheduling, I have to leave for a national committee that's going on at 11 o'clock. And these groups that I represent also strongly support both of HCD's packages. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Trusley?
Next, we have, I'm going to butcher this, either McKay or Mackay.
Mikai, can you hear me?
Yes, and can you please state your full name, please?
Mikai Freeman.
Thank you. Ms. Freeman, go ahead.
I have a speech limitation, so I appreciate your latitude to if there's not something you do not understand in my speech that you ask for clarification. I want to support kind request that in the future these meetings be at 10 a.m. Distance change advocate with the Center for Independent Living, 9 o'clock, and then our clients are doing personal care routines, and 10 o'clock we help to get more people to participate in this dialogue meeting. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that speaking so far of architects. I am going to learn a lot of the understand on regulations. I support DRC's opposition and supports, and I specifically want to talk about item 16, the bathroom. I'm coming to you from a lived experience as someone who utilizes a power wheelchair, and on that power wheel is a ventilator that supports my breathing. You may not understand understand the magnitude of a few inches, but believe me, those who have to struggle, fall, hurt themselves because they cannot navigate into a shower stall and exercise personal dignity of a shower as vital. I assure you, people living in apartments that are most adaptable do. Currently, I have consumers that I'm working with Urban Habitat to give a report on residents, I'm sorry, tenants in low-income tax credit apartments who get these tax credits to adapt. In many cases, senior and other affordable housing apartments. Many of our consumers have moved in and were told that their units would be adaptable, and they are not. And they have been unable to use, in many cases, their showers. We are living in an age fighting for apartments so that disabled people can come out of institutions, skilled nursing facilities, and live in house in the community. This is Olmsted. And that would be very close to impossible. Having to wedge into a shower stall where they can't get a shower. They have to review an apartment space, and they having mobility in a power wheelchair, a manual wheelchair, and reviewing the bathroom. They see they cannot maneuver the bathroom facility. So I don't understand why there's not continuity in the regulations. I don't understand why this is such a difficult decision. You are able to teach in our community, okay, regardless of injury, life stage. Maybe one day you'll live somewhere, hopefully not have encounter that situation. We have consumers, multi-generation households moving to new apartment buildings. People who have had strokes or other illnesses. And to have this situation is really a real barrier. Imagine if you couldn't take a shower once or twice every 2 weeks because someone would be able to help your parents, help your child transfer into the bath area safely. I want you to understand this is not just a hypothetical situation. And I want people to come and give their experiences. Seniors, children, and caregivers. It's not equitable. It's not just. So I ask that you please listen to DRC because they do represent the community. I ask you to listen to me because I will not be able to maneuver in this configuration with my ventilator. Someone transferring me. One person. It is not safe. And it would cause further injury to either the person being transferred or the caregiver. And think of yourself who may one day face a situation. I think you'd like to shower with dignity and with ease. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony today. We really do appreciate that. Ms. Tressley?
Next up, we have Kendra.
Good morning. My name is Kendra Muller. I'm a civil rights attorney at Disability Rights California, who is the agency designated by both federal and state statute to protect Californians with disabilities. I come to this in both my professional capacity and my lived experience as a wheelchair user. Our comments here are provided from substantial research, but also extensive discussion with the disability community. I have a few administrative items. I'm echoing Tim's comment for addressing items one by one for accessibility and efficiency. And if anybody from this commission would like to respond when I discuss a certain item, please feel free to interrupt me. Also, I propose it would be really helpful for accessibility if the public commenter can not only be unmuted, but have the option to have their video on for the comment period. I'm unaware of any statute that prohibits this, and it can be really helpful for people to follow along with who's speaking. It's helpful for the ASL interpreters to see lips and body movement, and for people who read lips. So that's a request I would suggest for future meetings. And then also I would like to formally request that accommodation to align the 10 a.m. meetings in person with the virtual meetings at 10 a.m. for disability matters.
Thank you for those comments, and your suggestions or your requests will be taken into consideration for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn to the actual items now. Overall, we are in support of the DSA proposal. Items 1 through 3, we are in support of. Item 4, we are definitely in support of because of the addition to provide clarity to actually provide accessible routes. This is the same for, we are in support of item 5 as it provides clarification. We are in support of item 6 because it also applies clarification, but I do want to note that I agree that in future code cycles, and this was not a proposal, so we did not comment upon it, but as the commissioner stated, the 4 inches is rather unclear within the statute, so it may be a need to discuss in future code cycles. For item 7, we are strongly supporting this proposed change because it's consistent with the California Code 1028.5 standards. Before, there really wasn't any guarantee that somebody with a disability or with a mobility device would have a safe space in an emergency. And so we really appreciate DSA for recognizing that and proposing these technical requirements. Emergency situations are really dangerous for everybody, and especially the disability community. I do want to know, DSA also notes that they are considering for future rulemaking to increase the scoping. We strongly support that approach and urge DSA and the Building Standards Commission to increase the 2% requirement to 5% as stated by other individuals commenting here. We have 3 main reasons, and I want to bring up the fact that first, SDAs are sized based on a 5 square foot human occupant. That's for a person standing up, but manual wheelchair users usually take about 30 inches times 48 inches, which is a total of 10 square feet per occupant. And that's manual wheelchair use, and the use of power chairs or scooters take up more square footage. So that is a reason we like to address that. Second, as discussed, there is analogous standards that use percentages higher with the 5% minimum, including dressing rooms, fitting rooms, locker rooms, etc. Third, and finally, we know that in many buildings regulated by 11B, there's actually likely to be a significantly higher percentage of people who use mobility devices. In particular, the residential dwelling units or public housing require at least 5% accessible units under 11B 233.3.1.1. Also, HUD is requiring 11% of mobility units in the city of Los Angeles, which is a huge portion of our California population. And most state housing programs actually require at least 15% accessible mobility units and 50% accessible mobility units in senior housing, which includes projects funded by tax credits. So in conclusion, the number of individuals using mobility devices in these public housing is simply going to be a higher number, and they will all need a space and an emergency safe place to be if there is an emergency. And I'll pause if anybody wants to respond to that.
Thank you. Go ahead and continue, I believe.
Thank you. Item 8, we support the change because obviously the provision is just simply redundant. There may be some technical difficulties, so we'll discuss those concerns next cycle, but we support. Item 9, we support DSA's efforts to clarify these accessibility requirements in all gender restrooms. The ADA 2010 model code didn't have any provisions for all gender restrooms. We're in a new area. It's wonderful that California has provided and is on the forefront of the most accessible toilet facilities for everybody. And so we're thankful for the DSA to clarify those. I will discuss item 10. We're neutral on this proposed change as it stands, but we do support the need to provide specificity in signage is always greater accessibility. However, the character height that's present here is possibly too small to be accessible to drivers with certain impairments. So we do want to just note that under criteria 1, 2, 3, and 4. Specifically, the character height allowed is as small as 5/8 of an inch, which is quite small and inaccessible to drivers or pedestrians with certain disabilities, including visual disabilities. Item 11, DRC is in strong support of this proposed change. To clarify the difference between Chapter 11B and HUD requirements for 11A adaptable units. This clarifies the Federal Fair Housing Act, and DSA has already incorporated relevant 11A portions within other sections. So this just ensures compliance with the Federal Fair Housing Act. Item 13, we support that to prevent conflicts in the code under Health and Safety Code 1, 2, 3, and 4. Item 14, we also support the proposed changes. We were initially concerned about privacy latches not indicating accessibility, but we understand now that the privacy latches already have specific accessibility requirements. It may be helpful to reference those here. Those references would be 11B 404.2.7, 11B 309.1, and 11B 309.4. Again, we strongly support item 15 to ensure accessibility of the new urinal compartments that will be created. We're really extremely pleased with the expansion of the maneuvering space because many existing code provisions were providing smaller clearance, and since this is not covered under the 2010 ADA code, it was great for the DSA to really base that on actual research and experiential users of mobility devices. And we greatly appreciate their in-depth research and conversation with us. We hope that the DSA will consider 2 specific concerns in the next rulemaking cycle. First, we do object to the inclusion of the exception. The whole point of the proposal, including under the ICC, was to have that 66 plus minimum diameter, and a reduction to 60 inches should not be allowed. The smaller turning space will definitely be a problem for people who use mobility devices. And it doesn't really take into account that issue. We also believe that the in front of language is not quite specific enough to ensure the proper location of maneuvering clearance. And instead, we would suggest the language to center spaces shall be provided in front of the urinal and centered horizontally 17 inches to 18 inches from the center of the urinal.
Does that conclude your testimony? Do you have?
I have further testimony. I wanted to pause for commentary. Item 16 is we are in strong opposition to this item. To make this change really would result in a reduction in accessibility because the 30 times 48 shower provides inadequate clearance to effectively transfer. And further, because it conflicts with other provisions, the other provisions that provide greater accessibility should take precedence. We encourage DSA to also reconsider this item in a future cycle, but we are strongly opposed as the higher accessibility is appropriate in all units, and it will directly affect many individuals within their homes. Showers are a vital part of habitability, as we've heard with other public comment, and they're necessary for everybody. And people with disabilities might need to even use a shower more frequently than non-disabled people for disability-related reasons. They might need to be more sterile in their environment. They might have wounds that need to be cleaned. A clean environment is really essential for both non-disabled people and disabled people. And a shower is a critical part of that. Making it inaccessible is declining that usage for all people with disabilities. Item 17, we definitely support. We do think that the universally accepted pictograms, the blanket ban accept all the pictograms, doesn't need to be a blanket ban. We can also go to California Statute Health and Safety Code 118600, and the California Building Code 11B216.8 does have symbols that align with all gender restroom signage. And we do think that in future code cycles, instead of a blanket ban, just saying, you know, maybe pictograms would be unsafe in some situations, but they are extremely helpful for many people in the population. Item 18, to conclude, we strongly support this change just to ensure that there's enough space within the urinal compartments and accessibility and maneuverability is not reduced. Thank you for all your time. We thank DSA for all their participation and discussion with the disability community. And I can respond to any comments.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments this morning. And I do want to just do a time check. We generally take a break at 90 minutes for the benefit of our interpreters, our ASL interpreters. So I want to do two things. I want to check with Ms. Trusley to see how many people we still have in queue. And then I want to check with our interpreters to see where we are on that.
So we have one more comment after this. Should probably check with the captioning as well.
Okay.
She doesn't have any relief. So for a captioner, are you okay to go through the other public comment before break?
Yeah, I'm fine right now.
Okay.
And
I can
then,
continue.
and then Zachary, can we do one more public comment or should we take a break? He's okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to do that little time check and being sensitive to everyone's needs. Ms. Trusley, can you?
Yes. Fiona?
Fiona, go ahead.
Thank you. I will make this very quick. Fiona Hinsey, Public Policy Director, and Independent Living Resource Center, San Francisco, and we stand in strong support with all of DRC's comments that were outlined and stated into the record by Ms. Mulder before me. So, and that's our comments for the day. So we stand in support with DRC and all their positions, and I will let commissioners go to break.
Thank you so much for that. Are the lines clear, Ms. Tressley?
Yeah, so we don't have any phone or public participants on the phone right now. We could have one more hand up though.
We do have one more hand up.
Yeah, Connie.
Yes, hi, this is Connie Arnold. And I had a message from an email from Gene Lozano. He wasn't able to participate in today's hearing. And he's in support of DRC's position with regards to DSA's 18 items, with the exception of 16, which he feels he's neutral on it because he feels it needs to be sent back for further study. And on item 10, about the sections 11B 216.5.2 electric vehicle charging spaces and 11B 216.5.3.2 additional signs lack the specificity needed and need to be cross-referenced to section 11B 703.5 visual characters, with the exception of 11B 703.5.5 character height. And he said he felt that in the last two code cycles, DSA staff, for unknown reasons, have not wanted to provide a cross-reference to 11B 703.5 and to have an exception in complying with 11B 703.55 or to give a reason for their position. And let me see here just a minute. He said in general that all that could be done is to give general support to item 10 with the comment that 11B 216.5.2 and 11B 216.5.3.2 need to be revisited during an upcoming cycle with regards to the cross-reference to 11B 703.5 and also in the upcoming code cycle, sections 11B 812.8 and 11B 502.8 need to be amended to specify a minimum character height, and that characters are to comply with all other visual character requirements found in 11B 703.5. So I'm sharing with you this information because he's unable to attend today's meeting.
Thank you. We appreciate that. At this time, and just again confirming, Ms. Tressley, that the lines are clear.
That is it.
We're going to take a 15-minute break. And so we will be back at 11, let's call it 11:10. Does that work for folks? So 11:10, and we will reconvene. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Give folks just another minute or so to get their cameras back on. I'm still missing one. That'll be good. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I know we're just going to go ahead and get started back up. I just want to check with the Building Standards Commission staff to see if we had any written comments submitted to the commission prior to today's meeting on agenda item 24.
Yes, Madam Chair, we did. Both commenters that submitted comments in advance of the meeting provided their comments earlier. It was Bob Raymer representing Building Industry Association and the Building Coalition in support, and Disability Rights California submitted their comments in writing as well that they summarized earlier.
Great. Thank you so much for that. This concludes the public comment portion, and I'm going to turn item 24 back over to the commission to see first if there is any additional deliberation you would like to have on this. There was extensive testimony given, so I want to give you that opportunity. And then also to see if there is, if the commission wants to entertain multiple motions, you know, maybe we can take up maybe the green cams and then maybe multiple motions on the yellow cams, again, based on the testimony that we have received. And just again, a friendly reminder to the members that anything other than the approved recommendation or motion requires a 9-point criteria justification. So with that, I want to bring it back to the commissioners to see if they have any additional comments or discussion items. I'll just call through this in the same order that we had your comments on this item. So I'll start again with Commissioner Ramirez.
Nothing at this point, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Patel.
No, I appreciate all the comments that everyone's made, and but I don't have any comments at this time.
Commissioner Kloss-Bruckner.
I don't have any comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mickleton.
I do want to make a comment. I appreciate the public participants' commentary about the sequencing. I think it was a little confusing how we got into that today, but I know that going through the proposal and voting based on how items fall into the green, yellow, and salmon forms has been criticized in the past for being confusing. Sometimes because it changes the order and it takes elements out of sequence that people are expecting and trying to follow along. So it makes it difficult to follow the meeting when things go out of sequence. But at the same time, I want to think about that for future commission actions in future meetings, we might separate the public comment on individual items or maybe in smaller groups, since in the future we'll have time limits on speaker comments. I want to make sure that we don't have too many items for people to comment on in one, 4-minute opportunity. So I sort of ask my fellow commissioners to keep that in mind for our procedure in the future, and staff as well, and not forget that. And then I believe that shouldn't create any problem to hear all the items and vote together at the end or in any sequence we want, but allow the public comment period to start and stop. I don't think that's a procedural problem, but maybe our council could just confirm that before we move on today for future reference.
Okay, Miss, who do we have on to Barbu? Fiona, are you there?
Yes, I apologize. I could not unmute myself quickly enough. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. It's that in the future, I want to make sure that we would be able to take public comment in a piecemeal way, either on individual items or groups of items. So we would, maybe take public comment on the first 5 of 15, and then have our deliberation, and then comment on the next 5, and then the next 5, for example, and then vote at the end.
Yeah, so that is possible. It would be up to the commissioners or the commission how they want to conduct that kind of business, because Bagley-Keene just mentions that public comment should be allowed or must be allowed on every agenda item, but how you take that public comment, whether it's splitting it up or taking it at the end, or however the commission wants to conduct that, that's fine.
Excellent, thank you, appreciate that. So I'm going to, the chair asked for comment first. I have 2 motions. Do you want to let everybody comment first or ask questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead then.
Commissioner Santian?
I have no comments, thank you.
Commissioner Sasaki?
I want to thank all the public commenters, because it's important for us commissioners to hear from them. So thank you very much. As far as taking, when it comes to approving or disapproving what's in front of us, I think, and I'll let probably the other commissioners, Commissioner Mickleton and Commissioner Rambin, maybe chime in about suggesting how to break up some of the items. It's clear that they're particularly like item 16. There's much more, I don't know, controversy or discussion about them, but about somehow breaking up the items within this item to vote on. Anyway, that's all I have. So
I appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Allegre?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Stockwell?
I have no comments. Thank you.
And then Commissioner Rambin.
No comments, but I think, yeah, worthwhile discussion on how we break things up. I know we had, as part of our packets, there was a grouped items document that was included. So that might be one strategy for addressing all these. It broke it up, administrative, signs, privacy latch, adult changing facilities, public housing, and then the all gender multi-user toilet rooms. So that could be one approach. No further comments from me. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate all of the testimony on this item, both from and the discussion with the commissioners as well as with the public. At this time, I would like to turn this item back over to the board to entertain a motion to consider the division of the state architects DSA-SS-CC 03/20 proposed adoption of amendments to the 2022 California Building Code Part 2, Title 24.
So this is Commissioner Mickleton. So I'm going to start with one motion that pulls out item 16 for a separate vote. I understand the desire to correct the inaccurate section reference, cross-reference, but I do believe that if that's done, the current requirements for the 36 by 36 shower would need to be carried over to that section. The requirements that are referenced to 11B 608.1 currently. So things like control location and alignment of clear space are provided for now. And with this change of eliminating the cross-reference, those would no longer be defined. So I'm going to move to return item 17 for further study based on our 9-point criteria, item number 3, that this is not in the public interest with respect to accessibility statutes and regulations. And number 1, that the proposed building standards would conflict with another section, which is another section of 11B in this case, that also regulates 36 by 36 showers.
And I just want to make a clarification. Did I hear that you were returning item 16 or item 17?
16.
Thank you. Is that, so which motion am I taking up first?
Commissioner Mickelton, that's your first motion, is to separate item 16, further study based on criteria 3 and sorry, I think you cited a second criteria.
And 1.
Thank you.
Criteria 1.
So I have a motion to return item 16 for further study based on the 9-point criteria justification, number 3 and number 1. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Rambin seconds.
I have a motion and I have, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Just a quick point of order. This is Diana Barbo, attorney for the California, the Building Standards Commission. I noticed that DSA has their hand up, and perhaps before a vote is taken or further discussion, they may have an opportunity to reply.
Very good. DSA, would you like to provide comment?
Before we do, my apologies. This is Commissioner Klaus Brickner. Right now, we are voting to just separate that. We're not voting to vote for or against item 16. Am I correct?
No, my motion was to return it for further study based on number 3 and number 1 of our 9-point criteria.
Shouldn't we separate it before we do that? I
don't know if we need a separate vote for that. Maybe council can advise.
I think the motion is clear enough to state that basically the motion is for item 16 to be further studied. So you probably could vote just on that. You can, however, if you prefer to separate them first.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so we have a motion. It has been seconded to return item 16 for further, to separate item 16 for further and return it for further study based on the 9-point criteria justification, numbers 3 and number 1. Ms. Maeda, can you, I've got still a hand up. DSA.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and thank you for the opportunity to comment. I'll keep my comments brief. Our intent on this proposal from the beginning has always been to remove the conflict that exists in the building code. Currently, there is a specific conflict between the requirements of 608.1 and 609.10.6.3.
the minimum federal standards in FHA for adaptable units allows for the 30-inch clearance. This removal of the conflict would align with minimum federal standards. We, of course, will take any action that's voted on today by the commission and move forward with that vote. But I did want to clarify, this is to remove a specific conflict in that clear floor space. And if it were to remain, the conflict would remain and create confusion. Again, it does align with minimum federal standards.
I appreciate the clarification. Ms. Maeda, can you call the roll for this item?
Yes. Commissioner Klaas-Buckner, Commissioner Klaas-Buckner,
Yeah, I am going to abstain.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
Commissioner Rambin,
Aye.
Commissioner Stockwell,
Aye.
Commissioner Legre,
Aye.
Commissioner Santillan,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Patel,
I'm going to vote aye, and I think Eric, I think I appreciate that you're trying to clarify the issue. I think the concern I'm hearing is that by clarifying one issue, we're creating another issue, and I think that's really what we're trying to do by sending it back to further study. So, thank you.
Thank you. The motion carries on an 8-0 vote with 1 abstention.
I will, this is Commissioner Klaus-Bergner. I will make one additional comment. There are times when the federal standards are less than what is proposed by California. So clarifying by aligning sometimes it does not gain us anything. So if you could clarify that in future when it goes back to for further study, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
This is Commissioner Mickelton. I do want to thank DSA for the clarification. I completely understand what you're saying, and what Commissioner Klaus-Buckner pointed out is what I was going to add as well, which is that to put a finer point on it, that we have a current situation where people are being referenced to another section that does have criteria that if that and that's being implemented in buildings currently and providing a certain level of access. And by further studying this, hopefully it won't result in just a simple elimination of that reference, but a carryover of what has been provided in California, which is admittedly greater accessibility and usability than the federal standards. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. And thank you, DSA. I would like to entertain another motion for other items within item 24 of this package.
This is Commissioner Mickelton again. I'd like to move to approve the remaining pieces of DSA's AC 0122 package as amended with the title of 11B 213.3.1.2 to be toilet facilities with toilet compartments and urinal compartments.
Commissioner Klaus Brickner, second.
There's been a motion and a second. So this is approved as amended. The remaining items in agenda item number 24. The amendment being amending the title of 11B -213.3.1.2 to read toilet compartments with urinal compartments, to strike the with and replace it with and. DSA has their hand up again. Go ahead, DSA.
This is Commissioner Mickelton. Not quite the right wording there. Let me repeat it.
Thank you.
So the whole title would be toilet facilities with toilet compartments and urinal compartments.
You want to read back what you have?
Yes, just to clarify, Commissioner Mickelton, sorry, I was writing quickly. The new title would be toilet facilities with toilet compartments with urinal compartments.
And urinal compartments.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for that. We have a motion. We've had it seconded. Is there any other discussion by the committee members? And I do have DCA would like a point of clarification. DCA, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification. Other references within the CBC don't describe it as toilet facilities, they describe it as toilet rooms. And I might propose the amendment be toilet rooms with toilet compartments and urinal compartments.
Thank you for that. Bringing it back to the commission. Commissioner Mickelton, would you like to amend your motion?
So that's toilet rooms with toilet compartments and urinal compartments.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. I accept that.
Thank you. And now I have a point of order from Mr. Day.
Sorry, I know we have the motion clear on the title change for the section. I just wanted to ask the commission a question. I believe DSA has an addendum to this item that they want included. I don't know if we have to take the addendum as a separate motion of approve as amend. Council might be able to help with that, or if we can bundle it with this approve amend to also include the addendum.
Did DSA present the item with the addendum?
They did.
Okay, so I think we are okay to vote all at once because it's part of the same item.
And then council, do we need to do anything other than that motion was amended? I will get a reconfirm a second. Are we good on that?
I think because we've had several discussions about the wording of the motion, I think it would be appropriate to restate the entire motion with the addendum with the correct title change all at once so that everybody understands what's being voted on.
Okay, so I don't know if Commissioner Mickelton wants to do that or if Mr.
I'll do
Day
that.
wants to. Thank you so much, Commissioner Mickelton.
I'm up for the challenge.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve DSA's item or the remaining items within DSA's package AC 0122 with their addendum as amended with the title of 11B 213.3.1.2 to be toilet rooms with toilet compartments and urinal compartments.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Klausbergner, second.
Perfect, thank you. Any additional comments from the members of the commission? Hearing none, Ms. Maida, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rambin,
Aye.
Commissioner Legray,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Aye.
Commissioner Stockwell,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Klaus-Buckner,
Aye.
Commissioner Santillan,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. On a unanimous roll call, the motion is carried. Thank you all, and thank you, VCA, for spending your morning with us and walking through your very comprehensive package with us today. I would like to now turn the commission's attention to item number 23, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development's package. It's HCD 1-AC0122. It is a proposed adoption of amendments to the 2022 California Building Code, Part 2, Title 24. Will the representative from the California Department of Housing and Community Development please introduce yourself and provide an overview of this item for the commission?
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Veronica Turdin, Associate Construction Analyst, representing the Department of Housing and Community Development State Housing Law Program. Thank you for the opportunity to present HCD's proposed changes to Chapter 11A for the 2022 California Building Code, item 23 on the agenda, and to respond to any questions you may have related to our proposals. HCD's proposal includes regulatory updates through a series of editorial modifications in Chapter 10 and revised language in Chapter 11A to align the 2022 California Building Code, California Code of Regulations, Title 24, Part 2, with the Federal Fair Housing Act. There is no intended change in regulatory effect for any of the proposed amendments. The proposed changes were discussed at the Accessibility Code Advisory Committee on February 2nd, 2023, and changes were made based on the committee's recommendations. The text with proposed changes was made available to the public for a 45-day comment period from March 10 through April 24, 2023. There was no subsequent public comment period. A total of 7 comments were received during the 45-day public comment period. 5 out of the 7 comments were not specifically related to our amendments for this intervening code cycle. HCD acknowledged all the comments and responded in the final statement of reasons only to the comments that pertain to our amendments for this intervening code cycle. There is no change in the final express terms or final statement of reasons due to those comments. The final express terms text is currently before you, along with supporting rulemaking documents. Would you like me to go over those editorial changes item by item?
Yes, please.
Thank you. First item, Chapter 10, Means of Egress, Section 1009.2, Continuity and Components. So this is an editorial modification to replace the reference to Section 1120A, now reserved, with Section 1119A interior accessible route. During the 2013 intervening code adoption cycle, HCD renamed section 1119A to interior accessible routes, repealed the language in section 1120A, and combined the requirements for the interior accessible route in section 1119A. However, the reference in chapter 10, section 1009 was omitted, and the error was not fixed in the 2022 California Building Code. Second item, chapter 10, means of egress, section 1010.1.1, size of doors. During the 2021 triennial code adoption cycle, HCD recognized deletion of the model code language under exception 10 related to the minimum clear openings and neglected to specify the repeal of the 2019 amendment within this section. This editorial proposed modification will align the 2022 CBC with the 2021 International Building Code, IBC language. Third item, Chapter 11A, Housing Accessibility, Section 1118A.1. HCD proposes to delete the reference to a specific section due to continuous changes to sections throughout the code and just reference Chapter 10. During the 2015 triennial code adoption cycle, Section 1007 was renumbered to align with the changes made to section numbers in the IBC. However, the reference in Chapter 11A, Section 1118A to Section 1007 was inadvertently left in, and now it's being proposed for removal. So the last two items clarify the reach ranges for cabinets and countertops. Therefore, those are interrelated. Because 4 and 5 are directly associated, would you like me to combine those two items?
Thank you. Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Fourth and fifth item. Chapter 11A, Housing Accessibility, Section 1136A.1, Receptacle Height, and Section 1136A.2, Switch and Control Heights. HCD proposed to clarify the requirement related to kitchen countertop extension in covered multifamily dwelling units, and to align the language related to countertop extension in dwelling units within Chapter 11A with the Federal Fair Housing Act, FHA. Now, this modification does not change the reach range allowance as identified in Section 1138A.3. And a little background on it. During the 2019 intervening code adoption cycle, HCD modified Section 1136A.1 and 1136A.2 to reflect a maximum of 25.5-inch kitchen countertop depth allowance, but did not specify that the 25.5-inch countertop depth allowance includes a 0.5-inch industry tolerance for installation of standard countertops. Within the Fair Housing Act Design Manual, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, permits a standard 24-inch deep cabinet with an additional extension of 1.5-inch for countertops, allowing a maximum depth of 25.5 inches. HUD allows a 0.5-inch tolerance for the installation of standard kitchen countertops that may project from the back wall for a maximum dimension of 25.5 inches. And again, HCD is not proposing to adjust the FHA requirements. We're not changing anything. The prescription is already in the code. We're only eliminating confusion and aligning the language with the FHA. The allowance for the 25.5 inches countertop, it's already in the code. We're elaborating on the language that is already codified. Both items 6 and 7, chapter 11A, housing accessibility section 1138A.3.1, forward reach, and section 1138A.3.2, side reach, were withdrawn after the ACC meeting due to the committee's recommendation. In conclusion, HCD respectfully request your approval for adoption of the final express terms and rulemaking package for the 2022 California Building Code, Chapter 11A. We also thank the Commission for your review time and sharing of expertise, as we're available to answer any questions or provide further information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that overview of this proposal. And item 23 is now open for commission discussion. And I'd like to call on Commissioner Mickelton to start us off.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Santillan.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Sasaki.
No questions.
Commissioner Alegre.
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Stockwell.
No questions.
Commissioner Rambin.
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramirez.
None, thank you.
Commissioner Patel.
Thank you, Veronica, and no questions.
And Commissioner Klossbrucker.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. We will now take comments from members of the public on item number 23. At this time, I would like to remind the public who wish to speak on item 23 to put yourself in the queue now by using the raised hand feature in Zoom or listening for the chair to ask for comments from the phone lines. Please identify yourself if you'd like to, and please clarify your who you represent. Ms. Trusley?
First up, we have Kendra.
Ms. Kendra? Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. My name is Kendra Muller. I'm a civil rights attorney at Disability Rights California. Speaking again for our public comment on agenda item 23. Our agency is designated by both federal and state statute to protect Californians with disabilities. I want to respond to HCD. First, I'll go through item 1. We support this change. Item 2 and item 3, we are neutral on this proposed change. Item 4 and 5 is what I really want to address. We have the same comment for both. Disability Rights California has done extensive research on both of these proposed code changes. We strongly oppose them under criteria 3. They would decrease inaccessibility. And I understand from a macro viewpoint that the code was simply, it needed to be changed technically, but that technical change did result in a decrease in accessibility. And so we need to look at all the consequences that aligning the code has. And that consequence is under criteria 3, a decrease in accessibility, which is prohibited. The design manual that was discussed really doesn't override the legal bases under state law. Specifically, we oppose it because it increases the reach ranges in violation of California Government Code Section 12955.1C, which provides that particular state regulations shall apply the same protections or greater protections than the federal standards. And I believe Commissioner Claus Bruckner brought this up as well. We're also concerned based on the HED stated reasons of stating that since this was common within the construction industry, we should allow it. We don't agree with that. It appears that HCD has authorized or been approving tolerances already, but there's no authority in relevant state statutes or in Chapter 11A for HCD to approve these tolerances, again, that reduce accessibility under criteria 3. Thus, we urge HCD to withdraw these proposed changes and enforce the reach ranges as written in existing code. My last point is HED's reasoning did not reflect that the agency did not engage with members of the community during their further study. So the community most affected by this change were not reached out to for further comment, and that's a large issue. There's no mention in HED's initial statement of reasons of how this small change would create the consequence, a huge consequence of reduction in accessibility that would impact people with disabilities, which is a large percentage in California. So we would suggest that we remand and propose that this go back for further research. This is for both item 4 and item 5. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Just as a point of order, we take HCD at the end of all the public comment, or do you want them, do we take them as they come up?
It's up to the commission. The commission wants them to respond, they can.
So I'll put this to the commission. HCD does have their hand up to respond. Would you like them to respond as the issues come up or at the end of the public testimony?
This is Commissioner Klaus Bruckner. I have no objection to HCD responding now, so that it's more logical as far as discussions and
Makes
response.
it an easier flow. I agree. Just wanted to confirm with you all. Thank you so much. Miss, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Turdine. Sorry, my apologies.
Don't worry, it's a foreign name. I know it's really hard. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So I wanted to mention again, we're not changing anything. So if you look right now at the code language, it says countertops shall be allowed to extend 25.5 inches from the wall beneath the receptacle. So it says that right now in the code language. And all we're doing is elaborating on this language, saying cabinets shall be allowed to extend 24 inches from the wall beneath a control switch with an additional countertop extension of 1.5 inch for a maximum dimension of 25.5 inches in depth. We're aligning the language with the FHA. And why? Because I received a lot of questions from the public, and I always have to put the FHA language in and to explain it, why the countertop is 25.5 inches. And again, it's already in the code. And as you know, by the government code 12955.1, we are required to meet or exceed the FHA requirements. And that's exactly what we're doing. So again, we're not changing anything. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Ms. Trusley, do you have another member of the public that would like to comment?
So next we have Connie.
Ms. Arnold?
Thank you, Commissioners. Connie Arnold, Disability Rights Advocate. Just to reiterate, we're I am, as are other members of the disability community, in support of comments by Disability Rights California. A number of us had been involved in some of the reviews with these items. Item 1, we support the change. It's just a clarification to cross-reference that helps ensure accessibility. Let me see here. And then item 2 about means of egress. We're neutral on that. And item 3, we're neutral on that proposed change. And item 4, we oppose that item because it decreases accessibility and it changes the regulations to reduce by allowing wider countertops, which reduces a person's ability to reach electrical outlets. And it also kind of codifies informal tolerances into a regulation itself, which is an improper thing for the code to do. So we adamantly oppose that one. And we also oppose item 5. We feel that 4 and 5 should be sent back for further study, and that item 5 would decrease accessibility by changing regulations that allows wider countertops and reduces an ability of individuals to reach light switches, AC or heating, cooling switches, or other controls. And it's allowed HCD to informally codify tolerances into regulation. And we feel that it should be addressed in further study, whereby the Housing and Community Development should engage with members of the disability community before putting forth these items. And to my knowledge, items 5, 6, and 7 were withdrawn, so I don't have any further comments.
Thank you for that, for those comments. Ms. Trusley?
So that is our last hand raised. There's no public phone participants.
Okay, having gone through all of the Zoom participants and the telephone participants, I'd like to go to the written comments. Yeah. Did we have any written comments received prior to this meeting?
Yes, Madam.
Sorry.
Yes, Madam Chair, thanks. We did receive a written comment in advance of the meeting from Disability Rights California, which they just summarized, and also from Bob Raymer with the Building Industry Coalition and support. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That concludes the public comment portion, and I will turn item number 23 back over to the commission and entertain a motion to consider the Department of Housing and Community Development's package, which is HCD 1-AC0122, which proposed adoption of the amendments to the 2022 California Building Code, Part 2, Title 24.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Santillan. I just have a question. Is this for the, there we go. Is this something that can be taken up at the local level?
The
specifically item 4 and item 5 that were received public comments on, where local jurisdiction, if they want to adopt something more stringent.
I'm gonna defer to Ms. Terdian.
Yeah, that was I'm sorry, that's why I directed my question to.
All right, thank you.
Hi, this is Veronica Turdin with HCD. Yes, definitely. The locals, they enforce. We don't have that authority. We don't enforce the codes, and definitely the locals, they always have the option to adopt or not adopt, and they have the option to have ordinances that are more restrictive than ours. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on this item? I lost my.
This is a motion to move forward with this, move to approve.
It's whatever motion you would like to make as the commission, so.
This is
This is
Commissioner.
Commissioner. Oh, go ahead. This is Commissioner Mackin. I thought that you were going to call on each of us for any comments first.
If you would like to make additional comments, I'm happy to do that.
Or maybe people can just raise their hand, or like we've been doing that sequence before putting a motion forward.
There has been a motion. Okay, so if any of the commissioners would like to comment on this, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hand on the Zoom and I'll call on you. Or Mr. Ramirez on the phone, just type up. I don't think that there's any further discussion on this item. We don't have a motion yet.
Okay, in that case, thank you for going through that, making sure. So I will say I do understand the concern about reach ranges, and this has been a bit of a point of confusion since 1996 when the FHA design manual first put this forward and sort of made it the industry standard. So I understand the comments regarding that. And I do feel though that this is not changing the 25 and a half inch dimension, which was already in the code. And so I don't see it as a reduction of access because it was already there. And in fact, one thing that is positive about this is that it stipulates the 24-inch cabinet dimension as a maximum, which without that being added could be more. And the ability to maneuver a mobility device up closer to the wall effectively and then reach across or reach anything on the countertop, I think is an important thing to have in the code. So I would love to see HCD, be able to change all of these dimensions at some point in the future. But as for the particular proposal that's put forward, since the 25 and a half inch number is already in the code, I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Rambin moved to second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional conversation or discussion by the commissioners? Seeing none, Ms. Maida, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Santillan,
Aye.
Commissioner Legray,
Aye.
Commissioner Stockwell,
Aye.
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
Commissioner Rambin,
Aye.
Commissioner Mickelton,
Aye.
Commissioner Klaas-Buchner.
Aye.
Thank you. We have a unanimous vote of 9-0. The motion carried. Okay, and I'd like to move to our final agenda item, which is agenda item number 22. We just did 23, sorry. Okay, so agenda item 22 is the Department of Housing and Community Development's package. It's HCD 322, proposed adoption of amendments to the 2022 California Building Code Part 2, Title 24. Will the representative from the Department of Housing and Community Development please reintroduce yourself and provide an overview to item number 22?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning. Chair and Commissioners, my name is Randy Rico, and I am a District Representative 2 with the State Housing Law Program, representing the Department of Housing and Community Development for this 2022 intervening code cycle. Thank you for the opportunity to present HCD's proposed changes to the 2022 California Building Code. HCD would like to thank the Commission members for consideration of this rulemaking package and for lending your expertise. HCD's proposals for this 2022 intervening code cycle are editorial in nature to align the building code and the residential code with the California Energy Code, and there is no intended change in regulatory effect. These proposed amendments were presented to the Code Advisory Committee on March 1st, 2023, and was approved by the committee as submitted. HCD did not receive any public comments during the 45-day comment period from April 7th to May 22nd, 2023. Would the Commission like me to go through item by item?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Item 1, Chapter 12, Interior Environment. Section 1202.3, Unvented Attic and Unvented Enclosed Rafter Assemblies, has an HCD amendment to sub-item 5.1, which was added at the request of the Energy Commission during a previous code adoption cycle. In the 2021 triennial code adoption cycle, the Energy Commission added section 1202.3.1 and related table 1202.3.1 to the 2022 building code to cross-reference the International Energy Conservation Climate Zones used by the International Building and Residential Codes with the California Climate Zones the California Energy Code uses. The addition of these Energy Commission amendments to the building code, the amendment is no longer needed. Item 2. This item has 3 sections from Chapter 14 of the California Building Code, 2 sections repealing amendments, and 1 section adopting model code table. Section 1404.3, vapor retarders, has a California amendment that references vapor retarder requirements in the Energy Code for low-rise residential buildings, which may change with each code adoption cycle. That would require HCD to monitor the Energy Code for changes each code adoption cycle to maintain this building code amendment. In addition, HCD believes it is not necessary to duplicate the Energy Code requirements in the building code. Next, section 1404.3.2, Class 3 vapor retarders, has a California amendment that addresses Class 3 vapor retarders for low-rise residential buildings as defined by the Energy Code, which was repealed in the California Residential Code during the 2021 triennial code adoption cycle, and now should be repealed from the building code this intervening cycle to maintain consistency between the CBC and CRC. Additionally, section 1404.3.2 has been deleted from the 2021 International Building Code in errata posted January 4th, 2021, which makes this California amendment invalid. Lastly, table 1404.3 parentheses 3, class 3 vapor retarders, is a model code table that HCD has previously not adopted that contains types of wall coverings where class 3 vapor retarders may be used and in which climate zones they may be used. However, this model code table uses International Energy Conservation Code climate zones, which are not compatible with some California climate zones. The Energy Commission sought to address this in the 2021 triennial code adoption cycle with an amendment adding section 1202.3.1 and related table 1202.3.1 to the CBC, which provides a cross-reference between California and IECC climate zones. With this Energy Commission amendment in place, HCD can now adopt the model code table for use in California. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for that overview of the proposal. Item 22 is now open for the commission discussion, and I will call on each of you individually, starting with Commissioner Alegre.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stockwell.
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Rambin.
No comments.
Commissioner Ramirez.
None, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Patel.
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Kloss-Bruckner.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mikitin.
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Santillan.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sasaki.
No questions.
Thank you. We will now take comments from members of the public on item number 22. At this time, if you would like to speak on item 22, please put yourself in the queue by raising your hand on the Zoom, using the Zoom feature, or we will call on you from the phone lines. Ms. Trusley, do we have anybody in queue?
There are no hands raised and no public phone participants.
Thank you for that. I will turn it to commission staff. Did we receive any written comments to the commission prior to the meeting on this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, one comment in support from Bob Raymer and the Building Industry Coalition.
Thank you for that. This concludes the public comment portion, and I will turn item 22 back to the commission and entertain a motion to consider the Department of Housing and Community Development proposed adoption of amendments to the 2022 California Building Code, Part 2, Title 24.
Commissioner Sasaki moved to approve.
Commissioner Kloss-Bruckner, second.
Any additional discussion or comments by the commission? Seeing and hearing none, Ms. Maeda, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Sasaki,
Aye.
Commissioner Rambin,
Aye.
Commissioner Mikitin,
Aye.
Commissioner Stockwell,
Aye.
Commissioner Legre,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Santillan,
Aye.
Commissioner Haskin. Oh, I'm sorry. He's absent today.
The vote is unanimous with 9-0 and it carries. So I'd like to thank HCD for coming today to present your items and for the work you have done in preparation of today's meeting. And thank the commission and the public as well. I'd like to move us on to agenda item number 25, which are the future agenda items. So the California Building Standard Commission members, do you have any items you would like to have placed on a future agenda?
I'm sorry, Chair. Point of order. I neglected to call Commissioner Kloss-Bruckner for item 22.
I had a puzzled look on my face. I'm like, did I miss it? Did I say aye and I forgot?
And I jumped ahead. I am sorry. My
That's okay.
apologies.
Commissioner Kloss-Bruckner,
Aye.
item 22. Thank you. My apologies.
And mine as well. Thank you, Commissioner and Ms. Maeda. Future agenda items? Does anyone have anything?
This is Commissioner Mickelson.
Yes.
This, I'm not sure if this is exactly a future agenda item for us, but it might become one. And I see that HCD still has people on the line here, and I want to encourage them to consider working with DSA and the Access Code Collaborative, which is a really insightful group that they have, to look a little closer at the reach range issue that came up today with the proposal from HCD, because I think it does highlight, the commentary does highlight that there is a challenge there. It's been in place since '96, but that doesn't mean that it works. And I didn't bring this up during the discussion, but one way that HCD could remediate the problem that's a result of the Fair Housing Act design guidelines would actually be to lower the outlets, switches, and controls that are mounted over a counter. By doing that, it would, because of the triangulation issue of reach, it would actually make elements more reachable. It's not a complete solution, but it would be a fairly easy one. So I want to encourage HCD to continue looking into this issue of reach, side reach and forward reach over obstructions. And if that came back to us for a presentation or discussion, that would be a welcome future agenda item.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner, for that. The agenda is to. All right, thank you for that. We do not need to take a vote on that item, but we will work with HCD to see if we can get something for some updates as to where they are in their thinking and kind of how do we move from here. So I appreciate that. I do, before we move to agenda item number 26, which is adjournment, I do want to inform everybody that barring any action taken by the California State Legislature and the governor, our August meeting will be in person. So the regulation or the statute that allows us to convene remotely does have an expiration date of tomorrow, I believe, June 30th. So unless there is legislation that is passed and signed, we will be in person for our August meeting. So I would like everybody to please, members of the public, to please make sure you are watching our website and to see how the next meeting actually gets noticed, if it will be a Zoom meeting, a hybrid meeting, or a full in-person meeting. So I did want to make sure that folks were aware that the statute we are currently operating under does expire tomorrow. Having stated that, are there any other comments from the commissioners that we would like to make prior to me entertaining a motion for adjournment?
This is Commissioner Mickelson again. Just in light of this 3-day meeting and the lack of a need for the second day, but the fact that we wanted to make the accessibility items that were coming up at a predictable time, I'd like to suggest that since we're reserving a 3-day meeting period for our next time to convene, that maybe the accessibility items be put on the first day, so that if we do run through the agenda more quickly than anticipated, that everybody's not staying, the commissioners aren't staying in Sacramento for an extra day beyond what might be needed.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that. It is a very valid point, and we will take that under advisement and make those
Thank you.
adjustments. Okay, this concludes the Building Standard Commission. I entertain a motion.
Just a quick point of order. I think we also need to go to public comment on this item.
On which item?
On this item of items on the future agenda.
I did not have that. Sorry, that this was. We
generally allow public comment on each item. So just in case there's some further comment from the public, we should just check the lines.
We can err on the side of caution. Thank you for that, Ms. Barbu. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on potential items for future meetings?
First public comment is going to be from Nubian.
I'm sorry? Nubian, thank you.
Hello, can people hear me okay?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Nubian Scott. I am an attorney. I previously worked with Disability Rights California. I appreciate you opening comment up on that last item because I actually wanted to add that I'm not sure what the exact law is that allowed for there to be temporary virtual meetings, but if the change in that law, if assuming there's no new legislation passed and signed by the next meeting in August, if there's a way for you to interpret the law that you will be under to allow for hybrid meetings, I would highly encourage that for members of the disability community. We actually had this discussion with DSA about the Access Code Collaborative meetings and whether, even though I know that's not statutory, but just talking through publicly, allowing for hybrid items or hybrid meetings or going back to in-person, because there's a lot of usefulness in having in-person meetings, right? But lots of members of the disability community shared that they actually benefited from having meetings in person. But then those same members and other members from the community shared the significant burden that travel can place on people with disabilities. And it can also just be a complete barrier. Some people with disabilities just cannot travel large distances that, they couldn't just get in local transportation to get to. And there are members that participate statewide. Or not members, there's people of the community that participate statewide. And so if something was held in Sacramento and there wasn't a hybrid option at a minimum, they would be prevented from participating in the public meeting. So I just wanted to share that as a consideration and to encourage the option of having hybrid if possible. And then also I share Commissioner Mickelton's request that actually DRC, when I was still with DRC, I made the request on behalf of members of the community to Kevin Day to have the items moved to a higher up on the agenda. And the compromise, which I completely respect, was to have all the items heard today. But I think given that there's more time to create a new agenda, if items were going to be moved to the first day, I think that would be super helpful. And could be viewed as an accommodation for the disability community. So I just wanted to state those two things. Thank you all.
I appreciate for your comments, and we will definitely be working with our legal counsel to ensure that our meetings are as accessible as possible, and also as and that does include that idea of a hybrid meeting to the extent it is allowed under the law. So we will definitely be working with counsel on that item. Thank you. Are there additional public comments, please?
Yes. Next up is going to be Kendra.
Kendra, go ahead.
Hello, this is Kendra Muller, attorney from Disability Rights California. I just wanted to jump on and specifically state the code that allows teleconferencing by the Bagley-Keene Act, Government Code 11123.5. did allow teleconferencing before COVID-19. The COVID-19 specific provisions that are now being rolled back in July, those eliminated the different restrictions, including, you had to have a quorum around agency members. The public place that the agency members were must have been accessible to the public. So the COVID-19 code that everyone is discussing right now is being rolled back, allowed for increased access in virtual, but the rollback doesn't eliminate or have a blanket ban and suddenly all teleconferencing is out the window. Bagley King still allows for that under Government Code 11123.5. So I just wanted to give the specific code so you had it.
Thank you for that. Are there additional public comments?
There are no other hands raised and no public participants.
Thank you for that. I now think I'm going to go to agenda item number 26 and entertain a motion for adjournment.
Commissioner Mickelton, move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Klaus Brickner, second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that we adjourn our June California Building Standards Commission meeting. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed indicate by stating no. And if abstaining, please state this. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.